One thing about deep feelers, sensitives, empaths, those who just feel very emotionally connected and attuned with ourselves and the world around us, is that you can hold dualities within you. You can hold multitudes. You can see things from many different perspectives, and you do so naturally. And then you also seek to find more because you seek to understand other people. You seek to create shared experiences. You seek to understand more and more. You go much deeper than most people are capable of going. You like to look at what's underneath the surface. You know that there are multiple sides to every story. You see all of the perspectives and you empathize and have compassion for everyone in every situation involved. And also, like, very often an additional secret side dimension to any situation. It's a beautiful gift that you have because you can see layers of the world that many people just close themselves off to. They are not able to see all of that beauty around them. They're not able to see all the different layers. They're not able to see, and therefore they're not able to empathize. This is the center of where your empathy and your kindness comes from because you can see everybody's point of view, and the ones you can't see, you seek to understand. You're curious about them. You have a curiosity about the world and about other people. People who do see the world as black and white, and that's a lot of people, this or that, in small boxes and containers, they are going to want to put you in a box, and they're going to put one in a box of their own choosing in their own mind. They've put themselves in a box. They've put everybody else in a box. They put all these things in boxes. And so when you start to talk about all these different perspectives and you start to show your duality, and even more than duality, your ability to hold multitudes of truth within you at one time. More than one thing can be true. Here's something that's true. Here's something that's true. They seem diametrically opposed. Foes. Okay, I couldn't help myself. They seem like they would never work together in the same space, but you know that both of those things can be true at the same time, and additional other things can be true at the same time because you contain multitudes. You know that you contain multitudes. So therefore, the world around you contains multitudes, and the people around you contain multitudes. And so when you try to share this multitudinous nature of yourself with others, because you get excited by it, you are someone who likes to dive deep. You are someone who wants to foster understanding. And you try to share it with people who see the world in black and white, or they can't see things coexisting. They are unable to hold multiple truths in the same space. Then you often face pushback. You often face them telling you that you're wrong, or trying to convince you that it can't be that way because this, that, and the other, and trying to get you to adopt their black and white mindset, which is really frustrating because you're trying to share a depth with them that's important to you, and they're trying to box you in and to chain you to, the idea of this or that, the idea of it's one way or another and not both, when you know that the world works in those shades of gray. It actually works in a whole spectrum of color. It's not just one or the other. It's very frustrating. And, for them, they are upset by you being able to hold these multiple things within you. They are uncomfortable with it. They are disquieted by it because you're holding up a dimension to them that they could dive into. They could go there, but they don't want to. They've chosen not to. That's why, they're probably not very in touch with their emotional self. They're probably not very in touch with their intuition, their instinct, their insight, their deep inner feeling, whatever you want to call it. They have closed themselves off to those dimensions of self, to those layers of truth in the world around them. And so when you're trying to share it with them, or you're trying to communicate with them in that way, they are not wanting to participate. And it's a beautiful thing about you that you are able to do this, even if other people don't get it, even if they can't participate. That is really irrelevant. That's a losing out of theirs. That is something that perhaps they should go work on, but it's not something that you should change about yourself. I know it has a tendency to make deep feelers feel very lonely, feel kind of weird or different, and people will try to make you feel that way. Whenever you make someone uncomfortable by asking them to see beyond what they are willing to see, or hold more truth or complexity than they are willing to hold, then, they're going to try to make you feel a certain way about it so that they can see themselves as right and you as wrong, and they can keep continuing to live in their little box and keep going forward. But you know deep down that more than one thing can be true. And in the Empath Travelogue this week, which is a weekly post that I write, and you can read it or listen to it, I wrote about a time where more than one thing seemed to be true. And, this time of the world, you may be watching this whenever you're watching this, but this time of the world, we just had a very brief United States TikTok ban. And if you are someone who is on social media, especially on TikTok, there are lots of questions of truth going around. And also a lot of truth was revealed during that short time of the ban and immediately after. At an interpersonal level, a structural level, a systemic level, it goes all the way up, it goes all the way down. And those of us who are deep feelers, we can see all the perspectives, we can see all the truths, we can see all the sides, we can hold them all simultaneously, even though some of them don't pertain specifically to us. And part of the struggle is to remind yourself where you stop and other people begin. To remind yourself that you still have a truth that is your truth. You may update it, you might get new information. You might find that one day something passes your sniff test and the next day it doesn't. But you still do have that truth that is true to you. And it isn't compromised and it isn't beholden to anyone else's truth, even though you're very interested in their truth, even though you're able to hold it and make space for it and consider it and weigh it and contemplate it. There's still a truth within you. And it can be very hard for deep feelers to bring ourselves back to focusing in on our truth. And so, especially times in the world that are very noisy, that are very distracting, where there is a lot of information and a lot of truth to be taking in and considering and kind of filtering through, it can be very easy to feel confused or overwhelmed, especially when emotions are running high and maybe your own emotions are running high. So if you're currently going through something like that, or next time you are going through something like that, or if the world feels like that right now, I want to encourage you to use your internal sniff test, because if it doesn't smell right, if you can just sense something is off, you can just sense that something isn't good, then you can filter that through like a coffee filter, and say that's not going to be for me. I'm not partaking of that. That's, not passing the sniff test. It doesn't matter even if it passed the sniff test yesterday, because the milk in the fridge passes the sniff test until it curdles and then it doesn't anymore. So day by day, moment by moment, if it doesn't pass the sniff test, to your deep inner feeling, to your instinct, to your insight, to your intuition, whatever you want to call it, if it doesn't pass the sniff test, then it doesn't have to be for you anymore. Or it could turn out that something that wasn't for you is for you now. It wasn't the time then, it is now. It wasn't true for you then, it is now. Because you're also changing all the time, and you're also getting new information, and you're also having new experiences, and the world around you is changing too. And you already know all these things. But when we as deep feelers don't take the time to remember where we truly are, like our truth, because we have to live by our truth. We can't live by other people's truths. We are in their day to day. We aren't living their lives. When we forget to come back to our own truths, it's very easy then to take on everyone else's truth and start to live the way that other people want us to live, or to do things that other people want us to do that are not true to our internal compass. And so when you are feeling like that, remember that you do have a truth, and it's multi-layered, and it sees lots of things all at once, and it's more complex maybe than a lot of people's, but you still do have a truth of you and an internal compass that tells you what is for you and what's not for you. And you can listen to it, you can trust it. You can just trust the feeling you get, like in your body, or kind of the reaction that you have to things, to guide you whether it's going to be something for you, something you believe, something you put stock in, something that you follow, take action on, all of those things. I did outline in the Empath Travelogue this week. So right now, as you're watching this, it would be the week of January. What day is it? January 20th, 2025 would be the week. And I did write about all the truths are being revealed right now, if that's something of topical interest to you in this day of time. I also wrote about a time in the Empath Travelogue this week when I was in Malta. And so I'll tell you the story really quickly. I was in Malta in December 2019, and I woke up this one morning, and it was actually the day before my flight home to the United States was supposed to leave, and the power was out in the hotel. And so no charging phones, no Wi-Fi, no espresso, no hair tools. So my travel companion and I, we went downstairs to the hotel lobby to try to see if we could find answers, because when we walked outside of our door, we noticed it was the whole hotel that was out of power. And there was no hotel employees around. So we're like, this is pretty strange, because usually there are plenty of hotel employees hanging around. So we walked outside onto the street. And if you've ever been to Malta, they have like these very steep, grand, like magnificent, and we were in Valletta, cobblestone steps that go up to the main street. And we were at the bottom of one of those steps at the hotel on the Grand Harbor. And so we stepped outside onto like this kind of like sweeping upward step, series of steps. And we saw all the way up that there was no power, because you can see into like storefronts and restaurants as you go up those steps that there was no power. But we did see people driving up the cobblestone streets, like at the crossway up where the steps turn like and cross the road. And we could see people were trying to get generators to like restaurants, cafes, get the city back in business. We walked around for probably an hour and a half before we finally found some place that had gotten their generator back on for long enough to prepare food and actually be able to feed us. So we finally found a like a food hall that we had been to, and we were able to get some food and some caffeine, which we were really grateful for. And it was all just a little bit confusing. We don't speak Maltese. There really was no one to ask. Like, a lot of people were very busy, obviously trying to get the power back on. So we decided we were, fortified with the food, the caffeine. We were going to go on with our day because we were going to go to the Medina Gate, and that area doesn't really require as much electricity as other things you could do in Malta. So I hailed a cab, and finally we're alone with a Maltese person who might be able to tell us something. So we asked, what's happening? Like, the power's out. Is this common? And the cab driver said, no, it's not common. The power's out, not common. We're like, yeah, well, the power's out. And he said, no, like the whole country of Malta, the power is out, not common. And we said, something like, well, what's happening? Do you know anything? And he said, the president of Malta was voted out in the last election and is going to be removed from office in January. And the president is showing us that we need him, basically, that we need him, and he can take and give things to us. He can give and he can take away, just as we can take away things from him. He can take away things from us. That was the gist. And we're like, oh, okay. Like, like a political situation here. And so he was driving us to Medina, which is a longer drive. And we were chatting just a little bit, commiserating about the morning, kind of an annoying morning for everyone. And no one's really sure when the power's going to come back on. It's all very in flux. And then something on the radio catches his attention, and he turns it all the way up so that we can hear the broadcast. And he's like pointing at it, and he's going like, like, ah. And he turned it all the way up so we can hear it. We don't speak Maltese, but he turned it back down after the broadcast was done. And he said, yes, you see, it's the government, it's the president. So apparently on the radio, they'd been saying the same thing, that the president had turned off the power to the country. And it was a warning to the citizens that, he wasn't very happy with them. And our cab driver said they weren't really happy with him either. So that's kind of how he left it. And, a few hours later, he dropped us off at the Medina Gate. Really gorgeous, really beautiful. We had a great time, even without electricity. And then a few hours later, the electricity did come back on in Malta. And I was able to get on the internet, and it said that the country of Malta is entirely supplied, or at least mostly supplied, by with electricity by an underwater cable that runs from Sicily, and that had been compromised, and that was why the power went out. But I was just remembering our cabbie, and I'm like, multiple things. I don't know what the truth is on that, but I can hold all of it inside of myself, and I can say that multiple things can be true at one time. And I don't really even need to try to analyze, rationalize, intellectualize, academic guys what the truth is. And that's very often the case too, especially in cases where there's so much information coming at you. You have no way to verify sources. There's maybe all sorts of like shades of gray as to what the truth could actually be. Maybe there is no real truth in this situation. You can just see that just everybody has a different impression. Um, but there's really no need either, when you're a deep feeler, to intellectualize the truth, because whatever you feel deep down, it will, your intuition, your deep inner feeling, your instinct, it never leads you astray. So you know what to do about yourself. You know what to think. You know what to do. You know what action to take or not take, who to listen to or not listen to, whatever, in that situation. And even if it means that, you're listening to the cab driver and the internet, you're like, yeah, you know what? I bet both of those things are true. So, if you had to make a decision about that, you would be able to, and it would just come from within you, your wisdom and your discernment and your deep inner feeling. So, many people in the world around you aren't going to get that, and you can just let them not get it, because your journey is your own and their journey is their own. And it's not up to you to convince them of your journey. It's only up to you to know that you dive deeper than most people are willing to go. A lot of people skid along on a surface level and they're very happy with that. Or they think they are. And you know what? No judgment. That's for them. Like, maybe they will dive deeper someday, maybe they won't. But you see a lot deeper, and you have a lot of multitudes within you that you're able to hold, and it gives you new dimensions of seeing. And also, when things get fishy, when things get dark, when things get so that it's hard to see, your ability to hold those multiple truths and that multitude of information and perspectives, and be curious and keep learning, and keep processing new information, and constantly, also being able to check back in with yourself and know what your truth is, despite all these other things that are out there and you respect. It allows you to see in the dark. It allows you to be the seer. It allows you to see things other people miss, and to be able to live your life experience in a way that's really authentic to you, because you see those things that are aligned to you. You can see what's not aligned to you. And it really is, it's a deep gift. It's a deep strength. It's a deep piece of your personal power, especially when you learn, or you remind yourself, or you keep practicing too, depending on where you are on the journey, to understand where you end, even all the multiple truths within you, and other people begin, even though you respect their truths and their perspectives. What you must decide because of yourself, and what you can know that other people think or feel, and respect that. But never letting their perspectives, their beliefs, their way of operating to intrude on any of your boundaries, to make you overextend yourself or overgive of yourself, or to manipulate you, or to control, or to put power plays on you. That's the real danger. That's the real trap of being able to contain so much and hold so much and see so much for so many deep feelers and feel so much for so many deep feelers, is to be able to then hold not only all the things that you know to be true at once and know to be out there at once, but to hold then your own sovereignty, for lack of a better word, your own self, your own, how you expect to be treated, how you expect to move forward, how you will be interacted with, and how you will not be interacted with, and all of those things. So you can see in the dark. You can see in the dark, and it also means that you see others, but you aren't giving up yourself because of that. It's a balancing act. And on my social channels this week, we've been talking about that balancing act, and lots of people commenting lots of really incredible things over, especially on TikTok, where I am the same as I am here, Bailey Sends Word. And people talking about that balancing act, talking about how they learn to get there, talking about how they have to remind themselves, talking about their techniques for reminding themselves that these other people's perspectives are really all valid, except there's valid in terms of them having them, and there's valid in terms of whether it's something that rings true to you. So if you're wanting to take more of a step into this topic, This has been a deep dive for it, but also there is that Empath Travelogue topical dive, which all my topical dives on the Empath Travelogue are for free subscribers. I also offer personal stories where I dive more deeply in a personal way for paid subscribers over the Empath Travelogue. That's linked in this show description. It's over on Substack. And then also on TikTok. I'm also on Instagram. But TikTok's my home platform. So come join us over there if you're on TikTok. And there's a community over there that is growing and engaged and lively. And please join here too on YouTube, because in a more YouTube aligned way, that's what I'm out to do over here, is to create discussion, to create people helping one another, some community and some safe, supportive space for deep feelers, for sensitives, for empaths to talk about our sensitivity as a strength and our personal power, because we're all in this together and it doesn't get talked about as much. So I'm going to sign off for today, but I will talk to you soon.